Okay, so I hope you guys have been taking notes and paying attention, because now we're going to put everything into practice that we learned earlier. So first, we need to go back to Sublime Text and start from one of our stage building templates. So once in Sublime Text, let's open up stageexample.txt. This is our stage building template. It's in our levels directory. And let's double click to open. We want to create a new file from this. So before we do anything, right? Let's first go to File and Save As to create a new file based on what's in here. Let's all name it new-stage-1.txt for now. We're going to use OpenBORStats to design this, but remember, in order to see this stage listed on there, we have to update a certain file, remember? Correct, the levels.txt file. So opening that up, let's add a file command under our DBH course test game mode. I'm just going to make it the first one for now, and making sure the parameter points to the newly created file. Let's make sure to change our save by either file save or holding Control and hitting S. I chose Control S, but either is fine. Alright, now that we have that saved, let's go back to OpenBORStats. If we look in our levels area, we don't see that new file listed yet. What do you think we need to do to make sure we see the most up-to-date data? Correct, the reload button. Alright, so we'll go ahead and reload. Now if we go to the levels area, we'll see our new file. Let's go ahead and double click to go to our level design screen. Alright, now we can get to work. The background and panels are already inside. If you want, you can create your own panel order by changing lines 41 and 42. If you want to keep what's in there, that's fine too. Again, this is all about learning. But how about getting the most out of this and recreating your own background? If you don't want to do it this time, maybe try it for another stage. Hint, hint. Alright, once you came to a decision, let's move on to now adding our enemies, items, and boss. For this exercise, we're going to add 16 enemies, 1 boss, and 1 full health item right before the boss. Here's the spawn setup we're going for. We want to put a weight in the very middle of the stage. We want 8 of the enemies at different points before the middle. That means all 8 have to be beaten before you can advance, right before the weight. After the middle, we spawn the other 8 on the way to the boss. Spawn 1 full health item before the boss. Then at the end of the level, you spawn the boss. You also will need to wait at the end of the stage. I'll go about it one way, but you aren't required to do it exactly as I did. I really want you to be experimental in your approach. The first thing I'm going to do though is get rid of these 2 example spawns to start fresh. Now we need to know what enemies we have access to. So where do we go to do this? Correct, the models area and the project area. If you want to see how these enemies look, just double click on them, then check the frames tab, and then click on each animation on the left of the editor screen. After going through these, I'm going with the following. So I'm gonna choose 4 June, 4 Angels, 4 EGs, 4 Billies, and 1 Rugal, and he's gonna be my boss. Now that I have these chosen, let's go back to the level design screen. Alright, let's first start with putting a weight directly in the middle of the stage. There are 2 ways to do this. Both involve a little math, right? First option is to move your mouse to the very end of the stage in the design area by scrolling right and looking at the X coordinate value. But it isn't always pixel perfect. You'll have to realize some things about the panels, like the fact that each panel is 120 pixels wide. You remember that from before. So the width of the level is going to at least end with a 0, right? I mean, no matter how many panels you have, anytime you multiply a number by 0, you're going to have 0. So it's going to end with a 0. So as you can see, when I move my mouse to the end of the level, you're getting a number higher than 4070. So that means the level is 4080 pixels long. The second way to go about this is just to count the number of panels you used in your order setup. Take that number of panels and multiply it by 120. In my case, there are 34 panels used. So 120 times 34 is 4080. See, same number. That's why math is great. Now that we have that number, let's figure out the half point. We talked about this in an earlier lesson, as we have to factor the camera size as well. Let's first divide the 4080 in half. 4080 divided by 2 is 2040. We now want this value to appear in the middle of the camera, not the left, right? Because the wait command is only triggered based on the left side of the camera. So if our camera is 320 pixels wide, then what's the middle of it? Right, 160. 320 divided by 2 is 160. You can use your calculators here, but with paper or in your head is even better. Now that you have that, you would subtract the half of the camera size from the middle point of the level. In my case, the middle point is 2040. Half of the camera size is 160. 2040 minus 160 is 1180. So this would be your weight value. Weight at 1880. So this would be the first command I'm using. I also want to group my enemies in groups of 4, but you're more than welcome to have them come all at once. But in my case, we want them in groups of 4, which means when there aren't any enemies on the screen, it triggers another 4. Remember the groups of 5 example from the last session? It will be the same example, but a 4 instead of 5. But in this case, we want this to be triggered at the beginning of the stage. So the command would be group 1-4 at 1880. This would be the second command under the first wait command. So now let's plan out what and where the first enemies will be. I think I'm going to start with 3 June, 3 Angels, 1 EG, and 1 Billy. Start with that for my first date. Then the second wave is going to be 1 June, 1 Angel, 3 EGs, and 3 Billies. All right, so you add all these up. These total 16 enemies. So let's start with this. So scrolling this area back to the left, let's look at where we want to spawn elements. In my case, I want to let the player walk some and spawn 2 characters right when you pass the first divider to the right of the 078. So that X coordinate would be my at. Let me hover over with my mouse to get that value. All right, so I'm going to use this 486 mark. So that means that once the left side of my camera reaches 486, 2 enemies would be spawned. I'm going to start with 1 Angel and 1 June, and I want them to walk from the right of the screen. So remember that your camera in this case has a width of 320. So the X coordinate has to be larger than 320 for them to be spawned to the right of the camera. You also want to make sure they're being spawned on the ground. So let's start with the coordinate for the right of the camera. In my case, I'm going to use 360 for the X coordinate. Then for the Y coordinate, I'm going to use the mouse to see what values I want to use. All right, so after hovering over, I think I found 2 places I want to use. I chose 166 for one and 210 for the other. The reason for that is I want them to kind of walk in groups. I don't want them to be overlapping each other. I kind of want them to have some room between each other as they come on the screen. So here's the code I would be using for these 2 spawns. All right, so the first one will be spawn June, chords 360, because again, that's the X value we chose. 166 at 486, because that's the at mark we're going to use. Next, spawn Angel, coords 360, 210 at 486. Now what I want to do is spawn 2 more right at the first steel door. All right, let me go ahead and get that value. All right, well, we can use 969 for our value. I'm going to have 1 spawn from the left of the camera and 1 from the right. I'm going to use the same 2 enemies. Then I can simply copy and paste these and edit the values. You can copy by holding the control key and then tapping C. To paste, hold the control key and then tap V. So after copying and pasting underneath, let's change the at values to 969. We'll give one of these a -40 X coordinate so they can be spawned to the left of the camera, remember? 0 to 30, so it's going to be a negative value. Spawn to the left of the camera and walk from the left. I think I'll have Angel come from behind. So we'll change her coordinate from 360 to -40. So we look at this code here that we just pasted in. We have spawn June, coords 360, 166 at 969. So we really only changed the at for this one. Angel is a little different. So we got spawn Angel, coords -30 instead of 360, 210 at 969. Let's reload the page and see how this looks. As you can see the 2 position models where these 2 will walk to the left towards you. This Angel here will be triggered at this door and will walk to the right. June here will walk to the left towards you at this door. Anything else you notice when we reloaded this design, we didn't save the file. All we did was reload what we did. Keep that in mind. All right. One more cleanup to mention. We actually need to cut those weight and group lines. In order to do that, all you have to do is hold Control, well, first select, then hold Control and tap X. Then paste this code underneath the last Angel spawn. Remember the pasting short key, right? Hold Control, tap V. All right, let's see this in action. So we're gonna save this work this time, because last time we just reloaded. Now we need to see it in action. So let's save it and start the game up by using this shortcut button. All right, go ahead and load this up. And as I walk, all right, so now that we see it in action, we should have a better feel for how things work. Now for the middle weight area, which is 1880, we want to spawn the rest of the enemies, 2 from the left and 2 from the right. We already know the X coordinates to use for either case. So the models left are June. You have 1 June, 1 Angel, 1 EG, and 1 Billy. So we're gonna have to spawn them all at 1880, remember, because that's where your camera is gonna hit. June and EG from the left, Angel and Billy from the right. All right, so these four here, you can we got spawn June, cores at -40, 166 at 1880. Spawn EG, cores -40, 210, because these are coming from the left of the camera at 1880. Angel and Billy are coming from the right, so spawn Angel, cores 360, 166, 1880. Spawn Billy, cores 360, 210 at 1880. Looking at where 1880 is on the level, let's determine the next spawns from there. Let's choose where the next window comes up, where there are two windows and a door in the middle. I use 2403 for the at value. This time we're spawning 4, 2 from the left and 2 from the right again. So in this case, why don't we just copy the first example of doing this from what we used earlier? Save time. We'll paste this after. All we need to do is determine which enemies and change the at values. I'm going to keep the same enemies, as these will be our last June and Angel anyway, which will leave me with 2 EGs and 2 Billies. So we copy and paste it. So we got spawn June, cores -40, 166, change the at value to 2403. Spawn EG, cores -40, 210, change the at value to 2403. Change this Angel at value to 2403, and we'll do the same for Billy. Keep everything else the same. All we did was change the at values. All right, so let's spawn 4 more at the next window door setup. These will only be EGs and Billies. We'll use 3003. All right, so go ahead and you should have 4 copy. You can go about this however you want. I'm just going to paste these in and just overwrite. So we're going to have the same setup, 2 from the left, 2 from the right. So I'm going to spawn a Billy, cores -40, 166, change the at to 3003. Spawn EG, coming from the left again, change the at value to 3003. The next, that'll be a spawn EG, cores at 360, 166, change the at value to 3003. Spawn Billy, cores 360, coming from the right, 210 at 3003. All right, so those are all included now. Let's put the boss in with a weight at the end of the stage. So remember that the length of this level is 4080, right? In order to calculate the at coordinate, we need to subtract the width of the camera window so that the left of the camera is going to stop at the end of the level. So the camera size is 320. 4080, which is the size of the background, minus 320 is 3760 or 3760. So the weight and at will be there. One other thing to think about, I'm going to change where in the camera this boss spawns. We've been doing to the left of the camera and to the right of the camera. This time we want it to be towards the right side of the door in the middle of the screen. So let's look at the point I'm referring to. All right, so I move this here, so the X coordinate looks good at, let's say, 4004. So to find the X coordinate value, you would just subtract the value of 3760 from 4004 to find what the value is in the camera. Because again, we're talking about the value from the viewpoint of the camera and not necessarily the background. So 4004 minus the at, which is 3760, is 244. So this is going to be our X coordinate for this spawn. As far as the Y coordinate, let's just use 194. And remember, since this is the boss, we will need to add the boss subcommand. All right, so if we type this code out, we say we're going to use Rugal. So let's spawn Rugal. Boss is going to be 1. Chords is going to be set to 244, right? That's the math we did. And 194 for the Y value at 3760. We'll add the item last, but let's test this out first to see how it goes. Yeah, as you can see, we might need to adjust some of these doggone healths. Goodness. So let's change this health for a second, because we want to at least see the boss and make sure everything works. So I'm going to go through and give health subcommands to a few of these. Alright, so I changed those, so let's try out the stage. Ah, man, much better. All right. Now let's go back to the level design screen and add one final thing, and that's adding the full health in an obstacle. We'll use the drum for the obstacle and have it include a meat, as this restores full health. We want it right before the boss. So let's say right before the wall to the left of the double doors, in front of the 078 text. So we see that number to be, let's say, 3756. But we want this to appear before you see this, right? So that means we have to make sure we choose an @ value that will spawn the obstacle off the screen before you can get to this point. We should already know what the X coordinate value is, right? 360, because that is off the screen. So because of this, we need to also get the @ value by subtracting 3756, because that's where we want to put it, subtracting by 360. 3756 minus 360 is 3396. So the code would look like this: spawn box, and then the item subcommand, meet, coordinates 360, because again it'll be off the screen, 174 at 3396. We'll place this before the boss code. All right, so let's refresh. You know, actually, let's bring it down. Let's bring it down. So I'm gonna go ahead and change the Y value to 196. All right, so after reloading, this looks so much better. All right, that's it. Let's go ahead and save it. Yeah, this is looking great. This is looking great. All right, so next we're gonna add music to it and finish building out the game mode. Congratulations on building out your first stage from scratch. Good job, good job. I told you it's easy, man. We got this. We got this. All right, see you soon. We hope you're learning what you can from these free tutorials. Again, if you feel you need more in-depth or extensive services or extra help with learning and getting the most out of this, and don't want to wait on the videos, please feel free to join our DBH community for only $5. That doesn't mean you can't ask questions on here though. So if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to post those. Like and share this playlist for those who may need it. At the end of the day, we just want to help people build their engineering and coding skills to be efficient wherever they want to go. I'm Kevin, appreciate you watching, and be brilliant. Peace.